American people of the World Wide Web. So it is Cypher Sigma here, and it is a movie review time. So everyone knows, because you've seen the thumbnail, it is The Long Walk. So yes, this is the new film adaptation of the book by Stephen King. I think it was late 70s, 80s this book was released. And essentially, the concept of this film is 50 boys. So one young lad from each state is selected. They are put on the beginning of this road. This army basically follow them along this long road. And essentially, as you go along, you get warnings if you stop still, if you kind of attack someone else, if you go off the path, then you basically get eliminated until one survives, and then you get a wish and infinite amount of money, or a massive amount of money. And this basically stories the lads kind of connecting and going through this journey with essentially all of them dying up until one. And has a cast. It is an hour and 48 minutes long. And it was all right. I will give it that much. I'll go more into it. So we do have Cooper Hoffman as Ray, kind of the main character that the story does revolve around. And you have David Johnson as Peter, kind of the friend he meets. You have Ben Wong as Hank. And then there's a few other characters that are there. And then obviously the other major person that's in this is Mark Hamill as the major, who kind of runs this whole thing. And the movie is directed by Francis Lawrence, previously done the Hunger Games, and there is kind of a connection. You'll see that later. So we'll put the spoiler warning up, and I shall get into the movie. So as the movie starts, we have Cooper Hoffman's Ray, him with his mum, basically in the car driving to this, and you basically get a little synopsis at the very beginning that essentially, one lad is taken from each state, they're put into this race, and obviously there will be a prize or something like this. Feels very much Hunger Games, which makes more sense when you know the directors from that. He's in the car, he arrives with his mum, then he gets there and Ray meets Peter, who befriends him, and you get to meet some of the other lads, and then they set off. Obviously have different personalities there. The major kind of instruction gives them all tags to wear, a bit around the neck to say obviously what number they are, so they know who's who and stuff like this. Tells them the rules, and off they get going. And then very early on you get to see certain rules being broken and stuff like this, and you get free warnings. After a free warning you get killed basically. And like this is a kind of, they say it's a spectacle, and like there's cameras watching you, and you see people at the side of this massive road because it's hundreds and hundreds of miles. But the story mainly focuses on the lads. There are just pivotal points that they kind of focus on, and obviously then when each lad starts to get eliminated for different reasons, some get ill, some go a bit crazy, some kind of get injured and stuff like this. There is focus on the boys, and there are certain bits where you can see the camaraderie in them. The main lads, or the Ray, Peter, Hank, and another lad called Arthur, kind of become the Musketeers, and they're kind of a group together for most of it. You kind of have Stebbins, who is linked to the major, which you find out a little bit later on. There's not real other cliques, but there are certain people doing this for certain reasons. And then you get to find out about Ray, the main character Ray, about his kind of backstory relating to his dad, how he's kind of exposed to stuff, and how this kind of lottery, is basically every lad puts in for it. No one never not put in for it, and kind of little condition to do it. Stuff like this, but you don't really know the what's, where's, why's. They say it was after a war, but you don't get to hear any bit of that, so it's left quite vague. It culminates obviously down to the last few, as they reach like this city. I think it's 300 something miles they've got to keep a pace of 3 miles per hour as well. So how you do that for I think it's 100 hours, so it's 4 days that the winners kind of keep going for, which is an amazing feat. I don't know if that would really be able to be done in real life. But yeah, and then there's a winner. I'm gonna deliberately not say how this ends. There is an ending to the book, and supposedly this movie takes it in a slightly different direction. But yeah, there is a winner decided, and then there is an ending, a conclusion to the story, so to speak. And then obviously the film ends. There is nothing after the credits or after the scenes. And what did I think of this movie? I rate this movie 5.5 out of 10. So It so for the movie itself, taking account how good the two main characters are and how good their friendship is, I would count it as a very average movie. There's nothing main special. Knowing the directors from the Hunger Game, it makes sense at the very beginning why it does feel a little bit like the Hunger Games. It's changed in the book. There's 100 lads. This one is 50. And there's one per state. But because you know have no premise of the outside world, it's just like this desolate road, and you see little bits, and obviously this army tracking because you have no understanding of the world that this is based in, apart from a few paragraphs at the beginning. I think it's really hard to have the connection. Like the lads don't talk about much about their lives outside of it, apart from you get to see Ray's. You get to see a bit about Peter near the end, or Pete as he is known, and it just is to say, like they did the main lads, Cooper Hoffman and David Johnson, I think did really, really well. You could see they have a connection. They had a few connections with your boys, Ben Wong and stuff like that. And the few of the other characters in here played a bit weird people, but it essentially, if you've not seen a lot about the film, you know, it seems kind of interesting. You have kind of, you know, as I say, it kind of has a preconception. It's a little bit like the Hunger Games, which everybody enjoys, but essentially from the beginning, almost from a few minutes into it, once you get kind of, it starts, then literally it's an hour and 30, an hour and 35 minutes of just these lads one by one getting killed, with a little bit of a story around a few main characters, and stuff. And it kind of puts a very dark tone on the movie that just gets kind of darker and darker and darker and darker, leading up to what is the ending. Again, I'm not going to foreshadow what the ending is because I don't want to give or say anything. Um, you know, Mark Hamill's not in it that much, but he is obviously not a very nice person as depicted in there. Um, that's why I say I count it as very much an average movie. The chemistry between the lads is really good. I would have liked to see that more, to be honest. I reckon if you had added more to the world and altered this could, you know, if you probably took some of the violence out, maybe these lads might go on to do another film about a friendship I think would actually work really, really well, because they are great actors and their chemistry was really apparent. I can see why they were chosen for this. But I say, as a story, it is just a very not average story, but it's just a very dark. It just gets worse and worse and worse as you kind of go on, and by the end of it, it's just so dark. You're just glad it's kind of over, rather than whatever conclusion there was, and it doesn't feel like it hits us home as much. As I say, there is a few twists and turns which are good. But that has been my review of The Walk. Have you seen this? The Long Walk, sorry. Have you seen this movie? Let me know your thoughts and feelings in the comments down below. Otherwise, I've seen the screen time, and I shall see you in the next one.